Hey, 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 it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. I don't know, haven't sung in a while. I felt like that was necessary. Guys, today's a real treat. I interviewed Steve Ryan of Steve Ryan Designs here in Toronto. He's recently made a shift in his business after taking Power of Process, which is my online course. He is now offering staging services and has a very clear direction for his business. I love hearing his story. He's also really funny, has a lot of knowledge when it comes to Instagram. And so we go into all the things. At one point in this conversation, it gets a little deeper than I really expected. I think deeper than either of us expected to go. We got into mindset and journaling and personal development. So, hey, check it out. If you're not into woo-woo, don't worry. Neither is he, which was what was surprising about this recording. He shares his experience going through Power of Process and how it has shaped his business and his takeaway from doing the course. And he goes into some details. So it's a really great episode. The Power of Process course is open for enrollment. You can go to rebeccahay.com/Power of Process and find out more. And I hope to see you inside the course. But in the meantime, here is Steve Ryan.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Are you as tired as I am working in a bubble? I mean, shoot. It's time to maybe socially distance with other people. That is why I love coming to the Collective Workspace. If you are someone who is looking for a little bit of stimulation, a lot of beauty, the Collective Workspace is a really great place to go. It is a co-working space for designers, architects, and builders in Toronto, and they're opening a second location this spring. They have flex workspace and offices starting at $120 a month. There's boardrooms, a podcast booth, which is where I am right now, concierge, storage, and a trade-only design library. You can find out more, or if you want to book a tour, go to thecollectiveto.com. Hello, Steve.
Hello.
I'm here with you on the podcast. You're my second man on the podcast. How do you feel?
You can never have too many.
I can't get enough of them. Why don't we just start off? Why don't you introduce yourself?
So my name is Steve Ryan. I am the owner and principal designer behind Steve Ryan Designs. I am a Toronto-based home stager and designer. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. I'm a graduate of George Brown College's interior decorating program. And I know you through the design world, first of all. But I know you specifically, I took your Power of Process course over the late fall into Christmas.
Mm-hmm. You're one of my shining star students.
Your shining star. I was like one of the ones who was actually finished. I didn't need the extra Christmas break to like catch up. I was finished at the end of the 6 weeks. Yeah.
Which is amazing. I think there's only two of you. I think it was you and maybe Catherine, who also had...
I think it was Catherine, yeah.
Yeah. Which that's so awesome. Like the whole point of creating the course is so people actually do all the work, and you did all the work.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
All of the work.
All the work. It's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
Hey man, you don't get anywhere if you don't put in the work.
It's true.
Yeah. Otherwise you could just listen to a podcast.
Yeah. Or like read a self-help book or not do anything, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And we've all done that. So I really wanted to have you on the podcast for a few reasons. One, you just finished Power of Process and we're about to launch it again.
Right.
And I would love, you're really, because also you were such a shining star, you did all the work, you completed the program. I'd love to hear your take on that experience for you and what and how the process has shaped your business. But then also I want to talk about how your business model is shifting.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's connected to the power of process or if that's something that's a longer time. Ooh, la, la, la. I can't wait to hear about that. And then I do want to talk a little bit about, you have quite an extensive knowledge about content creation, Instagram, because you do that. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the episode.
Okay.
So
bonus for the listeners.
Bonus. You got to stick through to the end. So why don't you maybe start off by just saying, like, why did you sign up for Power Process? Why did you do the course?
Well, I think you can never stop learning enough. And I knew that you were a very successful designer in the Toronto area. And, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got when I started out on my own design business was, don't ever take advice from someone who isn't doing better than you. And you were doing better than me. And I thought, okay, well, so I would like to be that person, right? So I knew that you had a lot of knowledge, and I kind of, I would talk to other designers and say, well, she's doing really well. Like, how's she doing it? And
what's her secret?
What's her secret? And you said, launching a course to tell you my secret. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. And you actually, this is something that people should know, is that you actually have 2 price point levels. You have a more advanced one that has more.
I did. I don't think we're going to do that again this time.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought it got a little complicated.
Okay.
So, but that's okay. You can explain it.
Okay. Well, so there was a more advanced one that had a lot more kind of one-on-one time with you. And there was kind of a basic course one. And I just took the basic course one. And, I got a ton out of just that. So if, the point I was going to make was, if someone was thinking of taking your course, but during the pandemic don't really have the cash for the more expensive one, just take the basic one. Like, you'll get a ton out of it. You really will. So that was where I was kind of going with that. So I had heard about your course because I knew you. I was following you on Facebook and stuff, on your Facebook pages. And I thought, well, I think I'm going to take that because I'm a Virgo, and I love organization. I love a clipboard. I love an internal checklist. Like, I love all that stuff. And the other reason was I'd been working design for a while. And I was finding I was struggling. I was struggling to get clients. There were parts of it that I didn't love. There were parts that I did love. And to make extra money, I hooked up with a local stager, detail staging and design, April Cook, who also I think follows you on Facebook. So I was making extra money working with her as kind of her principal designer and principal assistant. And she was then sort of delegating projects to me as well, because she was super busy and still is. And I was really loving the home staging. And I actually thought, I'm going to add home staging to my core offering. And that was my original, that I was going to do design and home staging. And I was kind of thinking about, well, how could I do that? And this course might be a great way to get me organized. And it was, because one of the first things you had to do, or one of the big things you had to do was, and I think we talked about this, was you have to do the whole list of like a design project from the day the client calls until the day you give them the thank you card kind of thing. Everything you do, and you take a highlighter and you highlight the stuff that you love, and you take a different highlighter and you highlight the stuff that you hated.
That's my highlighter.
And then you and that helps you sort of streamline your process and develop your process, which was great. And when I actually sat down and did it, I was like, actually, I should just do home staging, because there were things that I hated, like working with, I'm not slagging on contractors. My experience with contractors that I've had was less than stellar. I loved working with trades.
Yeah, you're not alone in that thought.
A couple of bad experiences with contractors. Not mine. They were like the client's contractors that I had to work with. So that was fine. And I always had this attitude of like, I'll work with anybody. I'm Mr. Wonderful. And so I didn't love that. I loved the reveal day. I loved being in charge of everything, all that kind of stuff. And so I thought home staging, I think, is kind of where I want to shift my focus to. And the power process really helped me get all that together, because A, I was able to develop my steps. And B, I was able to sort of go, oh yeah, you know what? And I'm not gonna add home staging to my design, I need to have like a core offering. So my core offering is actually home staging. And I switched from doing design to my design work is now I just do consultations or design packages. This way I don't have to work with the contractors. I don't have to like juggle all the ordering, and the fabric is now out of stock and stuff is now taking longer, right? I have a package or a consultation, fee, and I source everything out for you, blah, blah, blah. It's an e-design type thing. And the client then takes it from there and implements it at their own cost, which is actually great because it's cheaper for them. A lot of people would love to work with a designer, but they can't really afford it, or don't think they can afford it. So it's more affordable. So it's much better. And I've been able to use what you taught me to streamline the staging stuff. So I've been working on internal checklists and all of that, all the stuff I would send out for, cold calling real estate agents and that kind of thing, which I shared on the page, some of that. But so it's been really great.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
To answer your question, I got so much out of that, my investment.
Clearly. Oh my God. Game changer. I'm like, you like music to my ears. Like the whole reason I love to do this is I want to help people succeed and grow and have the opportunity that like it took me 10 years to figure out. But what I love, it's so interesting. Like so we always have a Facebook group, right? So there's the Facebook group that is included and people can ask questions and share their wins and share their progress. And it's like, it really resonated with me when you posted one day, you said, maybe it was after you gone through the checklist, like you just said, and you were like, I've decided I'm changing my core offering to be staging. Like, whoa.
Yeah,
dude,
it was a big shift.
A big thing.
Yeah. And I have to say it's a little terrifying, which is kind of why I'm really into it, because, you should always do the thing that scares you. But, I was saying to a friend the other day, I feel like I'm on a game show. And if I win the grand prize is that I get to continue to pay my rent. Like that, like that's the prize. You get to you won't be homeless and you won't starve.
You won't be homeless. Oh my gosh. It's funny because like after I saw you posting that in the Facebook group, I actually even did my own internal sort of reflection, because it's been something that I've been trying to pay attention to in my own business. And we have our core offering, which is our full service design. Right. But wondering like, how can I really hone in even more on what we do well and what we love? And what we really excel at is decorating. We really do. Full service still, but the decorating and for some of the reasons you mentioned with construction and whatnot, it's a lot more challenging when you're doing a renovation specifically.
Yes.
Tagged on. It takes more resources internally for our team. In the past, I've had to hire dedicated project managers, which then eat into our profit margin. And so I have to say, I feel a little inspired by your new path.
Well, thank you. Yes.
So we've helped each other.
Yes, we did. It's kind of, like I say, it's pretty scary. And obviously there's, I have sort of set out a plan of how I'm going to kind of implement all of that. So I've been working on all of that. And of course, I've still been assisting the stager that I work with. So, she's crazy busy. So it's
the market,
like on the job training,
Yeah, this is like, what a time to be a stager. Seriously, like the real estate market in Toronto, as I know is happening in other parts of the world, is bananas. Bananas busy, booming, crazy. Houses are selling over asking.
We just did a staging last week for a house in Bowmanville. We staged it Wednesday, Thursday last week. And I think it went on the market on Tuesday and it sold that day for $100,000 over asking.
My goodness.
Like, it's crazy. The other thing that I really liked talking with you about was on the very first exercise, which is the whole visualization, how you want your business to go and your life to be and stuff. And we had a whole talk about, because I'm a big science person. Even though I'm very creative, I'm big on science. So I'm not a big believer in the hippy dippy woo woo is what I call it. But you make us do the whole visual.
I make you do the hippy dippy woo woo.
Hippy dippy woo woo.
A second though, just a little second.
Yes. But I had actually, at the beginning of the pandemic, had started kind of doing that, like focusing on how much money I wanted to make in a year and what kind of projects I wanted to work on and that kind of thing. And so, and doing vision boards and that kind of thing. So I had already been kind of starting, and I have actually seen a huge difference by doing that. And so we had a talk about, I said to you, do you think visualization and meditation and gratitude journals and that kind of thing and journaling, do you think that it's an effective tool, or do you just think it's kind of the hippy dippy woo woo? Because I'm still kind of on the fence. But
I remember you asking that. I'm like, I wonder why he's asking this. Either he's like totally into it or totally not. Now I know.
I was a big sort of naysayer on that, but now I'm kind of like, it at least makes you focus more on what your goals are. For example, I think a lot of people, especially if you're a sole proprietor and you're running a business, you get caught up in the day-to-day, laundry of just getting through the day and getting through the week, right? And so you don't work on your business, you don't dedicate any time to really thinking about where you would like to be in 5 years, how you would just like your day to go. Like it's just you trying to get through.
Mm-hmm. The first time I did that was, sorry, you finish.
No, I said I thought it was a helpful thing.
Yeah. The first time I did that, so it's interesting. I grew up with a mom who was very hippy dippy woo woo.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where I was always like rolling my eyes. Okay, Mom, I'll look up at the sky and smile and it'll cure my depression. Like, come on. But so it's interesting. I almost had like this, when your parents want you to do something, so they do the opposite. Like this, not that I'm a rebel. I'm not a rebel, but I was kind of very resistant to anything like that. And so it's only been in the most recent years of my professional life that I've started to embrace and see how it's working for really high achievers and really successful business people, athletes, and that type of thing. And so I did an exercise. I did a coaching program a couple of years ago with Rachel Hollis. And the first thing that she did was this exercise where everyone closed their eyes and visualized. And it was the first time I'd actually, because you know how it is. We're running around at 500 miles a minute, and like it's just meditation. Like I don't have time for that shit. Sorry for swearing, but you're just busy. You're running around, and it forced me, because I was in this live program and everyone was doing it. So I closed my eyes and I listened to what she said, and I started to look and think about, my future and how, like in my beautiful, perfect mind, what would it look like? And I had this incredible moment in that visualization where I felt this wave of like happiness. Sounds like really weird and cheesy, but I was like, oh, wow, that's a good life. And you're right. It was like, it's not that just because I dream it, it'll happen. I'm not someone who says that, but
you still have to do the work. You still have to do the work to
do the work. Yeah. You have to do the work. You have to take the online courses. You have to do the work. You have to do the exercise. You can't just listen. And, but if you know that you're headed towards something, if you have a reason d'etre, if you have that reason of and that passion, and I think especially for creatives, we can be passionate people. We are creative people, and we almost need something to motivate us, because sometimes we can get dragged down by all the daily to-dos and the shitty contractor or the disappointed client or whatever's going on, that we forget that no, I'm doing this for a higher purpose. That sounds really cheesy, but I'm doing this for a reason. Yeah. So I love that you came into it with this very scientific mentality and you still managed to get something out of it. That means a lot.
Well, and I did actually, look into, meditation and journaling and all that kind of stuff to see if, like you said, a lot of very successful people do it. And I have a lot of, I have a few friends who are who are in rehab and who are in recovery. And that is a big part as well of their recovery process, that they meditate daily and, they use those tools. And I thought, okay, well, there's got to be something to it.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, the journaling thing, I remember you asked about the journaling and I was like, oh man, that's something I feel like I should be doing. But I have very recently started very light, journal light. Like I don't do it every day. I do my gratitude practice every morning, that I do, but and my intentions and my big goals, but I've just started journaling. And when I took some time off recently for my birthday, I was alone for 2 whole days. It was a miracle. And I I like sat down and did some journal prompts and just started writing, because they always say, like, once you start writing in your journal, like, especially if there's something that's bothering you, if you have like something you're indecisive about, or there's an issue you don't know how to deal with, just start writing out what's going on. And they say, like, for the first few minutes, you can write and write and write. And then what happens is you feel like you've run out of things to say. That's when they say you need to keep writing, because that's when the aha moments will come. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to do this because everyone says this is what happens. And I was writing, and then it was so true. By the time I got to the second page, I was like, oh, well, then maybe this is why this. And it was very interesting. It was very powerful. I've not been someone who journals regularly. It's really new for me, but I like it.
Yeah, I've done lots of things, not lots of. I've done some things on like money management and money mantra kind of courses, like Jen Sincero and that kind of thing. And you have, she has exercises like you have to write a letter to money about your, like it's a person, and you talk about your relationship.
I would love to do a podcast about that. The idea, like, that's something that I'm still working on too, is this idea of having an abundance mindset. And because we all grow up, and in whatever upbringing we have, it affects our relationship with money. And I feel like I keep getting to a ceiling with business, and then I can't get past it. I can't get past that ceiling. And I'm doing it to myself subconsciously. And I think for me, like, this is getting a little deep into my life, but I kind of grew up in a boom bust household. And I think it's that sort of, things are going well. Oh God, I have to hold on and protect it. I got to keep all the money in the savings. Like, business is doing really well. I'm going to hold on to the savings, and I'm not going to go out there and go after that next job. Let's just kind of wait and see. And it's this like hold and secure pattern.
Yes.
And it's all mindset.
And then stuff, like a pandemic will happen, and that reinforces the whole thing of, see, it was a good thing you saved for a rainy day, because then the bottom could fall out at any moment, right? That's the... Yep.
I know. So crazy. Oh, wow. This is like, really didn't expect to go here, but
I know this is like such a deep conversation.
Deep conversation for a second.
We thought we were going to talk about some Instagramming and some power process, and that was going to be it. We're talking about the universe and life and how it affects you.
Seriously. But you know what? That's what I think is really interesting about business development, because I think business development is so tied to our personal development. And because we are driving, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur or if you run a small business, you are the driving force behind your business. So you need to understand where your limitations lie. And that's like another exercise I talk a lot about, which is understand where your strengths lie and where you're not as good.
Yes.
And then hire to those. Like right now, I'm in the process of trying to figure out, I think I need to hire someone for my design business to handle operations, because there's so much that goes on with managing the team, ensuring the clients are taken care of, and managing the trades, and making sure the projects, that we're hitting our goals and that we're attracting the right projects. And I'm starting to spread myself thin again, because I'm taking on the coaching and the courses, and that like totally lights me up, and I love it. So but I don't want my design business to suffer. Right. So I'm trying to figure out, where do I hire? Like, let's hire those things that, the things that like, there's always those things that every day, every week, you're like, oh, why do I have to do this? Right. Yeah. Like, oh, I wish there could be someone else. For me, it's like the hiring and firing. Like, I don't like that side of it. Can I not hire someone for that? Oh, you can. It takes money. You pay people. You have to pay for it. So I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, let's really hone in on like, what are my strengths? What am I good at? It's like you with the staging. What do I really love to do and am good at? Because if you do more of that, then the money will surely come.
Yes.
As opposed to fighting this thing and trying to, like this morning coming into this podcast booth, I called my husband. I was like so frustrated with a project, and the client's not happy, and it's not our fault, but they're blaming us. And it's like this continual, like ridiculous cycle. And it's a small job. And I'm like, honestly, I feel like I keep bashing my head against the wall with the same kind of project. I need to cut it off. Like, I need to learn that this type of project is not our sweet spot. I don't enjoy it unless I were to hire somebody to manage that. And that's a balance. But I think recognizing where you're really strong, and that's where you're going to succeed. Like you talking about working with trades that aren't your trades and not having that relationship, and it getting frustrating. You're probably butting heads and pointing fingers. And it's like, why? Like, yes, you can get better at that. But if you really don't want to do that, then don't do it.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if anyone else who did Power of Process had this type of epiphany that you did.
Yes.
I haven't pulled the group. We'll have to find out.
Right. Some people are probably still working on their last. Yeah,
probably. Okay. So wait, let's delve back a little bit.
Okay.
So in Power of Process,
yes.
What other than that, like, which was a huge takeaway, which was you transforming your business.
Totally worth the price. Totally worth the price of admission.
Other than that, what were some of the more, can you think of any more practical applications or tricks or things that you learned in it?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, the whole coming up with your steps, the steps of your process and what each step would entail and simplifying them and constantly trying to streamline them and get them more efficient so that you work better and not longer or harder. That's a great one. There also just, the Facebook groups and stuff where you were able to, ask questions and also just kind of interact with other designers from around the world. There weren't just people in Toronto that were in the group, right? That was really great because one of the things that I have always found, so I'm a member of DDA, the Decorators and Designers Association of Canada. So I'm a member of the Toronto chapter. And one of the great things about that, which is similar to what I found in your group page, is that if you're a sole proprietor, it can be really lonely. And also you kind of don't know what's going on, like what kind of the norm is. And so by having some kind of group that you can, even if it's just a group of designer friends that you somehow kind of connect together and get together with for, once a month kind of thing, and be honest with each other about what's going on in your businesses, you can really learn a lot from that, because otherwise you wouldn't know. I mean, a lot of people, I've gone to, designer meeting things where you have to introduce yourself to a stranger and tell them what your hourly rate is. And it's shocking how some people are really undercharging and they just didn't know that they were undercharging.
Totally.
That's just one great example. Or, we've had, there was something just the other day in your group about trade discount. Do you share your trade discount with the client? And I jumped in and said, absolutely not. It's a trade discount. You are the trade. The client is the client. It is basically a commission that the vendor is giving to you because you acted as an unpaid salesperson for their business. That's how
I liked and commented on that, by the way, in the Facebook group.
You did?
I like how you worded that. I've never heard someone word it that way before.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's not like a bargain or a discount price for the client. That you're the trade. And so it's for you. And a lot of people, I personally was shocked to see the number of people going, oh yeah, I used to do that. And then someone told me I shouldn't do that it's actually for me. And so I stopped doing it. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you ever thought to do that. Or people that don't charge for their consultation, for example. Oh my God, why? That is your time. I wrote a whole article for the DDA's newsletter a couple of years ago about that specific topic, saying anybody who is doing that needs to stop. And when you have a social network like that, like if you're, in the Power of Process group and you're able to connect with other designers, you can ask questions like, do you charge for your consultation? And when everyone, I don't want to say dog piles, but when everyone kind of jumps in and says, oh my God, yes, you have to do that. And that it's really beneficial, not only to you, but to all of us, because if everyone just kind of did it, it would be the norm, right? Then now there's a norm, there's a set standard, and we all just do it. So it benefits everybody.
Yeah, there was someone in our group who was from another city, and she was saying, well, no, in my city, nobody charges for consultation.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay, well, well, maybe it's just different where you are. Like, I guess that doesn't apply. And I sort of was like, I shut up about it, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know when it was, when we all caught up at the end, when we circled back on that last week, and we sort of checked in, how's everyone doing? Where's everyone at? And she was like, oh, well, the pandemic has changed everything. Now I'm doing this thing and that thing, and I'm charging for in-home consultations. And I was like, oh my God, girl, it's amazing. And I really firmly believe it's that power of community, that she's surrounded by all these other designers from literally around the world, from like England, California, Michigan, out of all these places, including Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver and Kamloops, like all over the place. And everyone was saying you have to charge. And so that gives you confidence, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gives you confidence because you kind of were given permission.
Yes.
Like you couldn't give yourself, or you felt like you couldn't do it, or that you were dirty and evil for doing it. And when you find out that everyone else is doing it, it takes all of that pressure off, and you go, oh, well, it's like when I think about, switching over to staging, I'm like, oh, like I'm going to have to buy I'm going to have to invest money into furnishings, and I'm going to have to get storage lockers. Like it's a very scary thing. And I have moments where I think, what if I just completely fall on my face? And then I think, actually, a lot of people do this, and they're no smarter than me or more talented than me. So there is a chance you could fall on your face, but there's also a bigger chance that you're probably going to be super successful. So just do it and find out.
Yeah. And I like to say this a lot, but go all in on one thing and do really well. And, we have not for many years now, we've only offered full service design. And this is how we work. And if you want to work with us, it's A, then B, then C. It's 7-step process. I mean, I share my entire process within the course and all the details, which is helpful. Not that I maybe you can speak to this, but I'm not trying to push my process on anyone. I hope that doesn't come across, but I like to use it as an example of here's what works for me. Here are the elements that I think would really anyone can benefit from doing. And what I think was kind of neat is in the course, when everyone started sharing the processes that they had developed, everyone had a different number of steps. Some people had 10, some people had 3. So I don't remember how many you had. How many?
I had 4.
4, right? Yeah. So it's not really about cookie cutter, copy Rebecca's way or copy someone else's way. It's about the course is about finding your way, finding what works for you. Your business is unique, and go all in on one core offering. So I love that you really took that to heart.
I did.
Those are the people, but those are the people that are successful, is the people that go in, they have a niche or they have one service. Not to say you can't expand as you grow. And even our firm is looking now at adding a service offering, but that's after 7 years of being in business, doing it one way.
But if you can look at lots of different businesses that are successful that do exactly that. A restaurant that offers, steak and chicken and pizza and pasta and Chinese food doesn't do nearly as well as a restaurant that just offers steak or just offers Chinese food or just offers pizza. They do one thing really well. And that's what they sell. And so you need to look at your business the same way. It was like I said to you, I thought I would add home staging. And then I realized, no, I really enjoy the staging part. It's the construction stuff I don't really love. So I'm going to switch and become a stager and have a staging business, and my design business, I'll still offer that, but I will only offer it as this so that I only do the stuff that I really, really enjoy.
And you're in control. Like, you're in control of the parameter. The client is not dictating how you do things.
Correct.
I mean, hopefully not.
Well, they definitely don't, according to my 4-step process, because I have written that into my steps that I share with them. And it says in step 2 that, we handle everything in the design process, and, everything is left to us.
Yeah. And then it's up to you to educate your client, right? It's up to you to educate your client right from the get-go. So as soon as they inquire, as soon as you talk to them, you're like, this is how we work. This is how we work. And what I found is having that process, because I didn't used to have a process. It was interesting. I literally just this morning recorded a podcast with my team. So that'll be coming out, or maybe by the time you hear this one, that's already come out. I'm not sure the order, but it is all about, how we used to be and where we are now, and the transformation, because having the process has given me more confidence. And for me, a lot of what I teach and share is about confidence building. And part of that is just the community. Like you say, it's like being a part of a community and seeing that everyone else is charging for their consultation. Well, shoot, I guess I can do that too. And having that process for me kind of felt like it backed me up with a client, and it made me look more professional. It made me look like I knew what I was doing. This isn't my first rodeo. I'm not a fly-by-night designer. And it gave me confidence, because when they would ask me a question, I knew the answer. Yes. Clients used to ask me questions before I had a process, like a repeatable 7 steps or whatever, however many steps. They would ask me a question like, well, when do you think you'll have the design by? I'm like, well, it really just depends. It's different. We're going to start, I didn't know the answer. And then you probably could sense the insecurity in me of thinking, well, first I'm going to source fabrics, and I'm making it up in my head. I don't really know. And it was so stressful. Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's so much better when you can just say, this will be happening on this date. And if that changes, you will be informed about that on this date prior to that date. So you will know well in advance, and you will know the reasons why it isn't going to be happening on the date that I originally told you.
Yeah. And I now my expectations of other companies, so now my expectations are higher when I work with another professional service. And I'm just like, wow, you don't have a process. I don't think this is going to work for me. Or the opposite, they have a process. They're like, well, first we're going to do this. And then you put in your intake form. And I'm like, ooh, already I'm like, yep, I love this. I love this company.
It takes a lot of stress out of everybody, I think.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of is on the same page, and they know where you're going, and you know what's happening and what to expect.
Okay. Let's segue having a process into promoting your process, essentially, because you are a content creator. You do, correct me if I'm wrong, but you create the content for the DDA Toronto group on Instagram.
Toronto, which is at DDA Toronto is the group. So there's DDA Canada, there's DDA GTA West, I think it was Calgary, but I do the Toronto specific one, and the entire layout and everything was my idea. So I volunteered to do all of that for them. So yes, we went from when I took it over. When did I take it over? Like 2 years ago, I guess. I think we had 40 followers, and now we have just under 2,000.
Amazing! Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh! Okay,
stuff,
so you're gonna educate us.
Okay.
So for those of us who have a process, I would argue, and I'm curious your thoughts, that Instagram is a great place. I mean, we're going to talk specifically about Instagram because that's your little your niche. I feel like Instagram is a great place to advertise and talk about and promote the way we work. Would you agree?
Yes, I would.
What are some great ways that you can do that? Talk to me about this.
Well, so I think the biggest mistake that people make on Instagram, if you're like a sole proprietor and you're kind of doing everything yourself, so that would be me, for example, and I think the vast majority of designers and stuff in Toronto and definitely other places of the world, I think the biggest mistake people make is it has to do with content and posting. They either don't post enough or they post too much. So you should be posting every day, or every other day at the very least. Every day at the most, every other day at the very least. You don't want to be an over poster, because it means that your content is getting, you're kind of saturating your followers' feeds with stuff. So they might miss stuff, or they might kind of go on and kind of just look at the page rather than engaging with an actual post that you have. And if you are under posting, people just forget about you. People have a very short attention span, especially on Instagram or social media. It's always got to be that. So posting is one thing. And I would also say content, the actual content itself. You want to make sure that your content is on brand with your brand. So if you are a full service, luxury, high-end design firm, such as yourself, your stuff really needs to reflect that. So if you're at IKEA, for example, picking up a few tchotchkes for a staging shoot, right? You're having a photograph that you've worked on. You need some extra little things to fill things out. You might be encouraged or feel like I should take a picture here to post for my Instagram. But the kind of client, your ideal client avatar, probably doesn't shop at IKEA. So I would encourage you to not post that IKEA picture, because it's not in keeping with your brand. So you want to be thinking about that. So you can certainly buy that stuff and use it, but you don't want to sort of promote that you're doing that. You want to be promoting what's great about you. So if it's luxury, full service design, you should be doing that. If you have a process that makes it super easy, you should be talking about that. And what's great about it is that, particularly about your process, is that if you have a 4-step process or a 7-step process or whatever, you can literally do posts showing each of these steps. So you can, if your step 1 is the consultation, you can take a picture of yourself at the client's house, with your little measuring tape and whatnot. Today we're really excited. Today we're starting a new project. This great client is in step 1 of our 7-step process. Keep checking back with us to see how this progresses, right? And then when you move on to step 2 and you're sourcing stuff, you can take a picture at your laptop or whatever. I'm sourcing fabrics for this great client. They're in step 2, right? And then your followers really get to see your process from the beginning to the end.
Ooh, I've never done that. I've talked about the steps independently,
yes.
Never as a journey.
Yes.
Really like that idea. I'm writing that down.
Yes. You want to bring people back. The other thing too is content. People often make the mistake of kind of posting the same stuff. You want to make sure that when you're looking at your page, when you're looking at your landing pad of about 12 images, that you have a nice mixture of interior shots, some pictures of you, maybe some inspirational quotes, maybe some products that you like. It needs to be a variety of stuff. You don't want to have 2 selfies next to each other or above and below, because our eye tends to group things when we look at them just naturally. So if you have 2 selfies side by side, people tend to just see them as one and they just ignore it and move on. So you want to have a nice mixture.
Yeah. And designers listening, you should be able to do this because it's a visual medium, right?
Yeah.
It just takes a little bit of time, which I think is the one. Okay. I want to go back. I know you have so much to share, but I don't want to breeze over this. I think it's important.
Okay.
You said post. You don't want to post too little, but you don't want to post too often.
Right.
And I think some people listening might be like, oh my God, I can't win. So you said maybe once a day or every other day.
Yes.
I had a guest on the podcast recently, Emanuela, and she said designers should post 3 times a week.
Okay. That's every other day.
Definitely post at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's too much. Gary Vee says you should post 3-4 times a day. So who am I supposed to listen to?
I think that 3 or 4 times a day is. I think 3 or 4 times a day is too much.
Yeah.
Twice a day, I would say, is not horrible. I usually see your stuff all the time on my feed.
But that's maybe because I post more frequently.
Because you post more frequently.
The algorithm rewards people who post regularly.
Possibly. I highly recommend.
Anyone really know the algorithm? Let's be honest.
Facebook friend, don't you? We all have that Facebook friend who's an overposter.
Yeah.
Who's constantly sharing everything in the news, everything about themselves, and and it's oftentimes it's not great stuff. If they post about they're splitting up with their husband, I'm like, this is the juicy scoop I'm finally waiting for. I had to fish through every post about Alice from the Brady Bunch died, whatever, right? All this kind of stuff that I just don't care about. They are exhausting, and after a while, you just start scrolling by, right? You don't actually even stop to look at anything. And you need to think of it the same way with your Instagram, because you don't want, if you post a whole bunch of stuff at once, some people make the mistake of not posting very often. Mm-hmm. And so what they do is when they do post, they go, well, I'll post 10 posts right now. And that's a really big mistake, because what happens is your followers in their feed see 10 pictures in a row, basically, of yours. And so they look at the first one and they go, oh, I love that interior shot, and then they scroll to the next picture and it's another picture of yours. And they go, oh, I like that selfie of theirs, and then they scroll to the next picture and it's something else of yours. And they go, her again, right? And they just start, right? And they just start doing this. They just start scrolling till they get to someone else, right? So you have to be very careful. About
you want people to engage. It's not really about likes as much as it is getting that engagement, sharing your content.
That's another thing people do, that you need to, in the verbiage under your post, you need to try and engage with your followers. So if you post something let's say it's an interior shot, you can say oh, we loved working on this project, blah, blah. What's your, tell us in the comments what your favorite part of this shot is. You want to try and encourage people to write something oh, I love that lamp or whatever, right? And then the other thing is you have to respond to that.
You have to respond. Yeah. That's what I've heard. Every comment. Yeah. One thing that if you know who Kat and Nat are, do you know who Kat and Nat are?
No, I don't.
That's because you're not a mom. It's like,
Okay.
they're like these they're from Toronto, actually. They used to have a company. Anyways, they're influencers or something, but they say, part of their success, because their Instagram is really what launched them. And part of their success, they've said, is that they've always commented or responded on every single comment that they receive. Now they have a team to help them now because they get thousands, I'm sure. But I've noticed in the past, if I put a comment on theirs, like I always get something thoughtful back.
Yeah.
And so I do try to make an effort of doing that, like going through and responding. And another thing that I learned from Lisa Canning is, ask a question. Try to keep the conversation going in the comments, as opposed to love that space. And then you say, thanks, smiley face. Yeah. Now, I don't always do this. Be like, oh, hey, thanks. Which part of it is your favorite? Or something like that. And then you get that conversation going. And then those are the posts that I find tend to keep living. Like I had a conversation with Sarah Walker recently on a post that I made about sustainable fabrics. And she made a comment and I was like, oh, shoot. Like she said, oh, you forgot wool. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, where should wool be? And then she kind of wrote me back. She's like, well, is this list in order? I was like, oh, nope. And we started having this conversation. But as a result, more people saw that post because there was this ongoing dialogue happening in the comments.
Right. Yes. And the other thing you should do is also work your stories in, right? So if you post something, you need to do a story about it as well. If you post something in your feed, you need to post something in the story as well, saying like, check out our newest post and let us know about it, so that people go to it and see what the deal is. And then they engage, right? That's all. It's all part of the manipulation.
Oy, 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 oy. Oh my God. Okay. So what else? Give us all the mistakes, the tips. What else?
Oh gosh, I think I gave you all my big secrets.
I know there was something else you just said that I was like, I wanted to circle back to it. And then we got the number of times. It was type of picture. Oh yes. The verbiage? No.
The verbiage, yes.
Verbiage. First of all, is that a technical term?
I like it, and we used to use it in design school all the time about like when you post the verbiage should say like, whatever, right? So
cute, I love it. What are your tips on the caption, like writing the copy, writing the words for the caption that goes along with the picture? Should it just talk about what they see in the picture? Is there a length that it should be? Like how long should they be? Should they be? I see some people on Instagram posting and
story on the
essays. Like
every
once in a while, I'll read it. Every once in a while, but most of the time I don't.
Do not. No.
So
it has to be an amazing photo for me to read your life story about that one picture. Like it's too much. No one has the time. It needs to be just 3 sentences. And you want to try and bring it around to your brand. Obviously, if your brand is luxury, you need to kind of try and work that in somehow. I would mainly work on making your post kind of making the verbiage kind of interesting, tying it into the picture in your brand, and trying to asking a question to try and get someone to respond. Yeah, I mean, I think the question is the biggest thing because it's the easiest thing to invite. You're inviting someone to engage with you. Engagement, all the thing. If you look at the influencers, I'm very anti-influencer. I don't believe they actually influence anyone or anything because we're experts, not influencers. There's a difference between you and myself. But if you actually look at what influencers, and I mean like the ones who have like 150,000.
Like they're making their money on like talking about the water bottle.
Water bottle that they don't actually know anything about, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But if you actually look at their, obviously a lot of those followers are bot accounts that they've purchased. But if you actually look at the comments in their posts, you will notice if you actually click on each person and go to their profile, most of the people commenting are other influencers. And so what they're doing is they're doing an engagement bubble, right? They comment on each other's thing. They kind of help each other out by commenting, and they're creating the engagement. So that's another great thing about like Power Process and having like a design community that you can be a part of, because just naturally when you start, I have Instagram followers now, and I follow other people on Instagram who are members of Power of Process, who I met through that.
Yeah.
Or didn't meet, I met them virtually. But, we follow each other, and they are very big on engaging.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another great benefit that came from
like going through a course like Power of Process, which is, and this has been a big thing for me. So I know a lot of course creators just have like a course online. You can sign up anytime and do it at your own pace.
Yes.
For me, it was always really important. Like I was a camp counselor. Okay. I used to do musical theater. Like I like that group environment. So for me, I think there's so much power in going through it together. And that's why like I drip the modules. You can't just, I mean, I'm sure you would have powered right through it, but like some people get overwhelmed if they see 5 modules and all this work, and they just, I've done it with courses. I've bought courses myself, online courses, started them with every intention to finish, and then life got in the way.
Yes.
And so what I love about the community is that there's that accountability built in. And if you fall behind, that's okay. You can do it at your own pace. But the idea that like you have this community and you're commenting and helping each other through it. So when you come out of it, it's really neat to see. And I actually saw that too. I commented on one of our students' like Instagram post, I think it was this morning. And then I looked at her comments and it was like, Laura Lee. And like, it was all these people. I was like, oh, that's so cool that I've like created this and like brought these people together. And you're right. It's like this natural support system. And you don't have to be best friends. You're just there supporting each other on your individual journeys.
Yeah, it's a sort of collaborative environment as opposed to a competitive environment. I'm very big on that. And this is the other thing too that I wanted to sort of say about the modules is that the way you staggered them was great, because yes, if you get everything in one big course dropped in your lap, you are completely overwhelmed. It's like, walking into your house and it's like filthy and you don't know where to begin cleaning it, right? You're just overwhelmed, so you do nothing.
That's like my basement covered with toys.
Yes.
My basement. That's my basement, man. I haven't done anything. I need to hire someone. Sorry. Go on.
Okay. Staggering stuff out was really, really great because it broke it down into manageable, small chunks that they were not overwhelming. You could look at it and you could look at the video first and see what was going to be entailed for that week. And I actually was very good at, I would break it up. Like I would, when it dropped on a Monday, I would look at the video, which is generally about 10 minutes on average. So I watched the video to see what was entailed. And then generally 7:00 every evening, I would set 1 hour aside to it. This is how I got through it so quickly, is that I would put in time every day. So I would do it at 7 p.m. I would work on a chunk of it from 7 to 8. And I generally was very close to, if not finished that module by the time we had the Thursday class. And so what was great was when we got to the Thursday, online chat, if I was unclear on something or I wasn't sure if I did something right, I could ask that then, and I still had time to fix it before the next module dropped, right? But you have to really set a little time aside. If you put it into little manageable chunks of time, you can absolutely do it. And it's not overwhelming. It may feel at certain times that it's overwhelming, but when you start getting in there and you start getting going, it just starts to flow.
Yeah, momentum. You're like the poster child for like time blocking and project and like time management. Oh my God, so impressed.
Yeah, wow. I have a hard time actually focusing. Like we talk about meditating. I try to meditate 10 minutes a day, and it is I sometimes wonder if I don't have like adult ADHD or something, because I really cannot. So it is very hard for me to focus. And so that meditating has been helping me a bit. I have and the thing is, I'm very good. I was a very good student, not just in your program, but in like, when I was in design school, I was like a really good student, like having things done well in advance, because I would sit down and block out chunks of time. And so I seem to be a person who, if I can, block out my day, that, this is when you get up, and this is when you're going to exercise, and this is when you're going to eat breakfast, and this is when you're going to do this and do that. If I sort of have a schedule that I adhere to, I sort of respond really well to that. So I get things done.
Like I definitely, I sort of had the foresight to think like, this is going to take a bit of a time commitment. So I do try, like, I know in the portal, I don't know if that influenced you, or it sounds like you're just naturally that way, but in the portal I have, when you first sign up, I kind of have this like intro, like, here's what I recommend you do. Like, we haven't dropped the module yet. So like, take the time before the first module drops to block out like when you're going to dedicate time to the course. I don't know if other people even did that, but I do think that if you plan it in advance, you're going to get more out of it because you're going to have the time. You're not going to feel like, oh, I should be further ahead, or I should have done this thing.
Right. Right. And I also should probably clarify that I'm single and have no children or pets. So it was pretty easy for me to set aside, 7 to 8, because I didn't have any other commitments. Right. So you have to be straight up and say that did.
Yeah, normally 7 to 8 is bedtime in my house. But so this time around, I'm interested to hear what you think. So last time we did, it's 5 modules over 6 weeks. And because Christmas happened, the last week, which was our Facebook Live and just kind of checking in, and was after Christmas. And that was a week the modules had all been dropped. So this time around, I'm taking a page out of Marie Forleo, which is a course that I did years ago, which is I'm going to do an implementation week in the middle. So I'm going to drop modules 1 through 3, because those are big, juicy ones. And 3, I think, is one of the biggest.
What's the biggest?
Take a week. So not deliver a new module for a week, but still have the support in the Facebook group and the Zoom.
Right.
And pick up with the last 2 modules so that I can allow people to catch up, because I think that after module 3, that's when people started to fall off because it's so much work. And it's one of those tasks, unless you dedicate the time to sit down and do it. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, obviously I had my time blocked out and I had no problem.
Yeah.
Any way you wanted,
wrong person to ask.
Yes. Any way you wanted to drop it, I probably could have handled it. But I mean, that's a great idea to give people a little bit of extra time in the middle, I think, to kind of catch up, because that is probably, I think that the 3rd module was where a lot of people got really bogged down, because it was a lot of work. That was where you have to streamline everything and come up with, it was all the process. It was a lot of written stuff. It was the heaviest module. And I can see how, when you finished that one, how the thought of in a couple of days and the next one's going to drop can be a bit oh God, a little bit of a break can give you a bit of extra time to catch up if you get behind. And B, it allows you to breathe so that you can then move on to the next one. It's not quite so it's every week it's dropping.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how
we were the test people, right? We were the first group, right? So
you were my first, you're my OGs.
Yeah, that's right. So there was a little bit of people didn't quite know what to expect because they didn't know anybody who'd ever done it, right?
Yeah, well, because no one had ever done it. Yeah,
that's right.
But I'm so glad that it has helped so many people, and I have other alumni, if you will.
Oh yes,
interviewing on the podcast to help us spread the word, because I think it has been clearly a game changer for you, and I'm excited to see where it takes you, Steve.
I know. If you see me homeless, give me some money, right?
I sure hope you're not homeless.
I won't be.
I have a feeling you'll never be homeless.
I think it'll be all right. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for coming on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for your course. It was great.
Awesome. And in case anybody would like to follow you on the gram, can you let us know?
On the gram, I'm at Steve Ryan Designs. On the gram, I also have Steve Ryan Designs on Facebook. If you're not on the gram, you should be on the gram if you're not. But if you're on the Facebook, it's Steve Ryan Designs. You can like my page there. But I'm on the gram. And of course, my website is steveryandesigns.com. So you can find out lots of stuff.
And then they can follow the DDA Toronto chapter.
They can also do that if you're a designer. You don't have to be a member to follow the page, obviously. So you can follow. We do a lot of promoting of. We have designers, and of course we have affiliate members, which are vendors like Benjamin Moore and Sherwin Williams and all that kind of stuff. We have many vendors, and we usually use the page to promote them and their products. So it will help you learn about vendors and other design people in your community who you should get in touch with and may need.
Awesome. All about collaboration, not competition.
That's right.
Got it. All right. Thanks so much.
If I can leave you with one last thing, I would say don't ever compare yourself to other people on Instagram. That's the biggest mistake you could make, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody tries to look like they're more successful and happier and having more sex than you are on Instagram.
Well, that might be true, but...
well, I'm single and no kids, right? So
okay, so
I got lots of free time. No, I would say, Instagram can really be a place of unlimited potential and for collaboration and growth, but it can also be a cesspool of detriment to your self-esteem. So make sure you take everything with a grain of salt and
Totally.
keep yourself surrounded by the positive.
I think especially for women, and it's a shame we didn't even really go there in this episode. So we'll have to have you back on the podcast to talk about the difference being a designer as a male and being a designer as a female. Because I know it's come up several times in our designer meetup Zooms, Facebook groups.
Yep.
And it's really, I think, helpful for us female designers, us ladies, if you will, to understand from a man's perspective who does the same type of job that we do and how you handle situations differently. And I think it's fascinating. And I think there's a lot to be learned there, but we don't have time to go there today.
We don't have time today. It'll have to be another day.
Yeah. Another day for sure. Thank you for that wisdom. Yeah, man, the gram can be great. The gram can be bad. Monitor your use.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Be true to yourself.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Okay. Isn't Steve awesome? How nice and refreshing is it to hear from a designer that's a man? I mean, I don't have a lot of those in my life. I need to start accumulating more men in my life because they give us a different perspective. And I know I'm generalizing, but I think Steve, I love, and I did not know this about him, that he's a very scientific mentality, which now looking back on that conversation that he started, or I don't know if he started it, but in our Facebook group, in the Power of Process Facebook group, it's like, I see it from a different perspective now. It's so interesting. And he was asking, my opinion on the journaling and the visualization. And that we went to a deep place that I did not anticipate us going. So that's always the fun thing about interviewing people and just having a great conversation. It just feels so natural. Steve has some really good tangible tips for Instagram. I'm wondering now if I'm overposting. Am I an overposter? Guys, you would tell me, right? Just like how one of my students told me once was it in a course or no? Oh, she pointed out that there were a lot of typos in some of the documents that I had shared with the group. And she's like, Rebecca, just like when you have broccoli in your teeth and you want a good friend to tell you there's broccoli in your teeth, there's a lot of typos. I was like, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So guys, if that's how you're feeling, Rebecca overposts on Instagram, then just let me know. I'd like to know. Another big takeaway I have from that is when he talks about the best advice he ever got. I always love advice. I love little nuggets and little quotes, even though I never remember how to requote people properly. He talks about learning from someone basically who's gone before you. Who has more experience, who seems to be doing the thing that you want to do. And I realize now that's what I've done my entire life. And I, you learn from someone who's forged the path a little bit ahead of you. He's a Virgo, whatever that means. But I think that was a really great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I would love to see you inside the next round of Power of Process. Doors are now open for enrollment. You can enroll at RebeccaHay.com/Power of Process. We do close the doors for enrollment on March the 11th. So March the 11th at midnight is when we close the doors, and then we'll have our next cohort of Power of Process to learn and grow their businesses all together. And I can't wait for it. So I hope to see you guys inside.